this sucks for you guys because Trump has put you in a very difficult position because as my colleagues have said here, right, if Joe Biden or any other Democrat would have said this, you'd be like, that's ridiculous.
I don't know you very well, but I can assure you that the condition of Donald Trump being the president versus Joe Biden in no way, shape, or form sucks for me or Jim.
I think it's quite difficult to defend somebody who puts you in a position of saying we should put somebody else besides Americans first, especially when he's just given billions of dollars to bail out Argentina.
This video breaks down Donald Trump's latest attempt to rewrite his position on the border bill. Why Republicans like Lindsey Graham, James Lankford, and Scott Jennings are now twisting themselves into knots to defend him, and how Abby Phillip exposed the contradictions live on CNN. We're looking at what the bill actually included, why Trump pushed his allies to kill it, and how the MAGA spin machine is collapsing under its own receipts. If you're new here, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. Let's get started.
Donald Trump was confronted on Fox about H-1B visas and why he's not prioritizing jobs for American workers in manufacturing. Listen to this.
And does that mean the H-1B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people
no, you
here.
don't. No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles, or I'm going to put
How did we ever do it before?
Wow. It's an interesting soundbite. I mean, there are a lot of things happening there, including a huge rift, actually, within the Republican coalition on this issue. But that's that piece where he says, no, you don't. You don't have the talent, in response to her question.
I mean, this is yet another circumstance where the president seems to be having a very difficult time defending his own policies here. And I am someone who's generally in favor of more immigration, who's been very in favor of these H-1B visas, which have been indispensable to the tech industry. It would be great if he had the ability to articulate why these are a good idea right now, why these don't necessarily crowd out American applicants for these jobs, people who want to go seek a higher education in the United States, visiting from abroad, being able to attract the best possible talent from around the world and bring them to American universities to steep them in our culture. Lots of them stay, lots of them create more jobs. This is not a bad policy.
It has been a remarkable success story for the United States, although there are cheaters in the system, that's true, and that should definitely be addressed. But to Camille's point, Trump did not articulate anything even close to that in that soundbite.
No, and it's fascinating because although I completely agree with what you said, I thought it was kind of shocking that he just said, no, you don't. Who's the you you're referring to? The United States? He's referring to the United States as some other entity, as though he's not the president of the United States, and the United States doesn't have talented workers. First of all, I agree there are not enough workers here in the United States to be able to do all those jobs, but the president of the United States just said that you, the United States people, don't have enough good, talented people in your country. I'm shocked that if Barack Obama or Joe Biden or any Democrat said that, every Republican conservative would be outraged by that. That just one line. It's the first time I've heard that. It just struck me as being very unusual for any president to say something like that.
If Joe Biden had said that, it would be, more evidence in your column that he was unfit. I think.
Look, he was having a debate with a hardliner about immigration. She fervently believes that we shouldn't have any of this kind of immigration. Trump is in an interesting spot, as you pointed out, with the coalition. He does have people in the party who believe what Laura believes, which is this should be cut off. We shouldn't be doing any immigration of any kind, that's how you drive up wages for workers. That's a big chunk of it. He also has this interesting tech part of his coalition. They like the H-1B visa program. And then he's also got the agriculture piece of his coalition, which has other immigration issues. It's a delicate thing. He's got a broad coalition with really, really disparate views. I will point out he did sign an executive order earlier this year. I think it's a $100,000 application fee now for an H-1B visa. So they did move towards making it harder to get one. I think they would argue that makes it harder to cheat on it. If you're serious, you're going to pay us this kind of an application fee. But obviously he believes there's something to be gained in the United States by finding talented people, maybe with specialized skills, and bringing them here. That he may not be in full agreement with all of his coalition, but he'll get some support on that out of tech and out of other industries.
So let me ask you a question. If Trump would have said, no, we definitely need American workers, would you have just made the same argument?
Well, I'm not necessarily making an argument. I'm just telling you the political dynamics in the Republican Party, which is that there's not broad agreement. Some people want it, some people want it throttled, and some people don't want it at all. And he's kind of presiding over all of this. He is in an interesting position because he's known broadly as an immigration hawk, but on this particular point, he is supported by a great many people who see the value in highly specialized, talented people being able to come here.
Who are from other countries, not Americans.
Yeah, so I mean that is a point that's been made to him, and he's
that's
obviously
one of the reasons that this is a rift, because Trump has sold his base on a pretty exclusionary immigration policy. Now he's trying to argue with them that actually we should let certain people in. That's why Laura Ingraham is pressing him like this, and he's not really even articulating. To Camille's point again, he's not really saying clearly what the policy ought to be. He's just saying we don't have talented people in the United States to do these jobs, which is not true. But, I mean, it's also just a failure.
Are you arguing that we shouldn't have H-1Bs?
No, I'm just saying what he's saying, that we don't have talented people, is just on its face untrue, but there's a role for H-1Bs that he could argue for, but he didn't.
I interpret it as him saying there's room for more talented
He just didn't
people.
make the argument.
When I was listening to it, and I listened to it carefully, I was interpreting his answer as, look, we have needs and room for the most talented people we can get. Now, it will be under the framework of his executive order, meaning you have to pay a pretty significant fee to get one, which I think they believe has controlled this to some degree. But my interpretation of it was, hey, if there are talented people that can come here, they want to be here, and they're not gaming the system, that's something we ought to look at. That's how I interpret it.
He just said, no, you don't. And he said you'd have to get people out of the unemployment line here in order to get them into the jobs that are high-skilled jobs. That didn't sound like what you just said.
No, he was obviously saying that if you have an unskilled worker,
what you're saying and what Trump actually
if there's an
said
unskilled
is the
worker
point,
who's unemployed versus a highly trained or highly educated, engineer, physicist, those are two different kinds of people who would be taking two different kinds of jobs. What he said is objectively true. You couldn't pluck anyone off the street and put them in a high-tech, highly specialized, high-trained area in that moment. Maybe you could train them over time, but if you have someone that's already trained that wants to pay $100,000 to come here and you could do it, why wouldn't you?
And for the skilled type workers, he does advocate for apprenticeship programs, right? That's the cornerstone of trying to train the American worker to do the jobs in the American factories as the manufacturing base starts to grow.
This sucks for you guys because Trump has put you in a very difficult position because as my colleagues have said here, right, if Joe Biden or any other Democrat would have said this, you'd be like, that's ridiculous.
I don't know you very well, but I can assure you that the condition of Donald Trump being the president versus Joe Biden in no way, shape, or form sucks for me or Jim.
I think it's quite difficult to defend somebody who puts you in a position of saying we should put somebody else besides Americans first, especially when he's just given billions of dollars to bail out Argentina.
I think first of all, it was a currency swap, which we made a profit on. Number two, it's quite easy for me to be perfectly comfortable with the President of the United States, who's presiding over a broad coalition that does have disparate views. The previous administration, you couldn't sit here and tell me who the hell was in charge. I know who's in charge.
You're right,
of this
and I'm not going to defend it. I'm not sitting here to defend that. So I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. So all I'm saying is if you had somebody else saying the exact same thing, would you make the same argument? Can you say that honestly? And can you be intellectually honest about that?
Trump is in a difficult political position because his base is diversified here. Some hardliners, some moderates, and some people who want it more wide open. But they're all part of his coalition. He's trying to find a balance, but he's trying to do what's best for the United States. He clearly thinks there is some role for the H-1B program, but he has throttled it somewhat with this application fee.
He's clearly listening to the SEC community. He's clearly listening to the manufacturing community. He's trying to strike that balance. Did he do it in an artful way in that particular interview? Not necessarily, but that doesn't put Scott and I in a bad position in terms of defending the policies. I think the policies are good policies.
What is
one dimension of this?
So he's trying to find some middle ground.
The policy is he has an H-1B program that has a hefty application fee, which means not just anybody can walk in here willy-nilly. You got to be serious.
I thought it was America
I
first.
think you should also make note.
Are you against H-1Bs?
That hefty application
I'm America first.
fee is also
So you're
something-
against all immigration?
No, of course not. And I'm not against H-1Bs either. What I'm against is pretending that you are somebody that you're not, pretending that you believe in something that you're not, trying to sell the American people on something and pretend like you were supporting it the entire time, and then putting you guys in a position to defend something that you definitely wouldn't defend if it were any other person.
You said you're America first. I just don't think that there is they're mutually exclusive. You can be America first and also recognize that there may be times you could import talent from other countries that makes America stronger. We've done that for decades.
But that's not Donald Trump's position.
It's literally what he just said.
Today.
It's literally what he just said.
I mean, I also think that this is not unique to H-1Bs. There are a lot of types of labor that immigrants actually do in this country that help the United States economy. And Trump doesn't seem, I guess maybe the home health workers and the hospital workers haven't gotten to him yet, but those immigrants also count
Well,
too.
the seasonal workers who used to work in Mar-a-Lago got to him because he used to hire undocumented immigrants all the time until he got busted for doing that. And he had no problem shipping jobs overseas to produce his products. But, now he runs for president. He's America first all of a sudden. People believed it.
If a president suggests the country lacks talent, the natural response is not to scramble for justifications, it is to explain, to rebut, and to offer a coherent plan. Instead, what we see is political triage, allies rushing in to stitch meaning onto words that have none. Enter Scott Jennings, who behaves like a man trying to rebuild a bridge mid-collapse. He immediately reaches for coalition dynamics, application fees, tech needs, and apprenticeship programs, anything to translate Trump's clumsy phrasing into a defensible policy narrative. But defense by jargon doesn't pass the smell test. Jennings' argument hinges on a series of evasions that Trump is balancing conflicting party factions, that a $100,000 application fee solves cheating, and that the president simply misspoke. Those are convenient cover stories, but they don't address the core contradiction. You can advocate for skilled immigration while still saying America first. That's a defensible policy stance. What you cannot do credibly is claim the U.S. lacks talent and then expect your allies to perform interpretive gymnastics for you. There's a political theatre underneath the confusion. Trump's base is a coalition of hardliners who want immigration cut off, technophiles who rely on H-1B talent, and agricultural and service sectors with other labour needs. Managing that coalition means saying things that appeal to different audiences at different times, but policy should not be a series of mood swings stitched together by talking points. When a president's rhetoric swings wildly, praising isolation one sentence, praising talent the next, it erodes trust and hands the media a buffet of contradictions to devour. The real cost isn't just political embarrassment, it's the inability to sell a coherent vision for workforce and economic policy. Look at Jennings' rhetorical moves. He insists he isn't defending the incoherent parts and then immediately defends them. He claims the $100K fee is a masterstroke that prevents gaming the system, but that's a sideshow. A price tag doesn't fix a mixed message. What matters is whether a policy is explained clearly and held accountable to its promises. If a fee reduces abuse, show the metrics. If apprenticeships are the solution, show the training pathways. Don't dress up confusion as a nuanced strategy. That's what makes the defense feel hollow. The substitute arguments are procedural distractions rather than substantive answers. There's also a moral layer here. When Trump suggests the country doesn't have talented people, it's not merely a policy flub, it's an insult to people who study, train, and build industries here. It also undercuts the legitimate case for selective skilled immigration. Bringing in specialized talent has long been a net positive for innovation and job creation. You can support America first while acknowledging that selective immigration strengthens the economy and universities. The two are not mutually exclusive. But the optics of Trump's line and the circus of defenses that follow make it look like partisan spin wins over honest policy debate. And don't forget the Argentina tangent. It's emblematic of the larger problem. Whenever an inconsistency is pointed out, you say Americans lack talent, yet you've deployed billions abroad. The immediate response is defensive noise about currency swaps and profit. That dodge highlights something deeper, the inability of some pundits to face discomfort without lashing out. If you're confident, you answer the question. If you're defensive, you deflect. Jennings' refusal to plainly say whether he'd make the same argument if a Democrat said, it is telling. Silence like that isn't nuance. It's an admission that partisanship shapes the rules of moral evaluation, not consistency or principle. Finally, watch how this exchange reveals the rhetorical economy of MAGA media. When a narrative becomes inconvenient, facts morph into interpretations, and interpretations into salvations. The longer you watch the spin machine, the clearer it becomes that many defenders aren't actually defending policy, they're defending the leader. That loyalty requires mental contortions. The more contorted the logic, the less persuasive it becomes to anyone outside the outpost of full-time believers. And that's the risk.
You bankrupt your credibility by insisting on defense at all costs, rather than engaging with the obvious questions the public deserves answered. This whole exchange isn't just a cable news squabble, it's a small, vivid example of why political accountability matters. Leaders who can't clearly explain policy or who insult the premise of their own national story should not be rescued by pundits wrapping soft language around hard contradictions. Real stewardship of the country requires clarity, consistency, and the willingness to take blunt questions seriously. This is Andrew on Politics. Tell me, did Trump's remark about US talent sink his case, or can the coalition sell that spin? Drop your take in the comments, smash the like if this breakdown clarified the chaos for you, and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive.